welcome to another episode in our Modern Couples podcast. Today, I have with me on my virtual couch Jerry and Nicky. So good to have you here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Nice to be here.
Yes, we got introduced through another modern couple. You are actually sitting in their home studio today. I love that we got to meet in that way because I have this sincere belief that if a person and a couple sets out to create kind of a modern couple, power couple, let's say, modern day relationship that attracts a mindset possibility, more and more people like that, are attracted to us. And we create kind of a bubble of more of these couples that support each other, that show up for each other, where we can share and talk about these things. And yeah, knowing that the four of you are under one roof right now is really beautiful for me to know and to see. And I would like to explore today the subject of open relating. That was something where I heard the two of you are embodied experts in your own unique way with experience. And before we explore that, I would just like for the audience to get to meet you a little bit better. And with couples, what I like to do is have one partner introduce the other partner and kind of put your partner on a pedestal. Like, what do you see in the other person? Who is she? Who is he? What do you see that we should know about this person? And whoever would like to start, please introduce us to your partner in crime here.
I don't know.
I'd like to start.
You want to start? Okay.
Yeah. So this is my beautiful, wonderful wife, Nicky. She has often been described as a nuclear reactor by me. I think that she has an incredible embodied range of so many things. She's very compassionate. She's very kind and supporting. She's open-minded. She's grounded. And she's really transformed my life having her with me. I get butterflies just looking at you in the face right now. And she's also an unbelievable kind of manager, like an operational kind of mind. And she's a facilitator as well. So she's really good at hosting and providing space for people in transformational settings. And now we are actually embarking on setting up our own business around relationships. Yeah. Is that a good enough introduction?
For me, it is. I get a bit flushed.
Yeah, me too.
I can feel it.
It's a nice invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way to introduce. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will return the favor. This is Jerry, my wonderful husband. Jerry is, first of all, an incredible husband in the way that he is always there for me and supports me. He's a very generous soul, and you can have wonderful conversations with him and really go deep in all kinds of topics. His brain is just full of information. And I sometimes say Jerrypedia also. Very entertaining. Also, can hold just beautiful space for me, but also for the people that he works with. He works as a breathwork facilitator and trains coaches, creates beautiful men's spaces where he helps other men coming more into their masculine, like he's been doing over the years that I've been with him, and creating stronger and stronger containers for himself and for me and for the people and clients he works with. Yeah. He's also a really good lover.
Oh,
Just
thank
want
you.
to add that.
Thank you very much. Right back at you.
What else do I want to say about you? Yeah, he has a really, really good sense of humor. It's just no dull day with Jerry.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Can feel it all over here, and so good to hear how you, what you see in each other, how you speak about each other, and I get a sense of the synergy and how that weaves together, which takes me to exploring your relationship. So there is Jerry, there is Nicky, and then there's the relationship as a third entity, kind of what happens when the two of you come together, create together. What would you say is the secret sauce of your marriage, of your relationship, of the two of you? Yeah, the glue that keeps you together, the things that make you powerful. How would you describe your relationship?
Mm.
I think the North Star for us has always been, how can we grow together? And I think we both really view this relationship as a vehicle for growth. So we both bring in whatever it is that we're alive with, whatever we're dreaming about, and we find as a team a way to approach that together. And so, on the open relating front, that's been part of that, in that we're really looking for opportunities to grow and not necessarily to always feel the best in the moment, but how to develop. I think, and with that, there's a lot of communication that comes with that. What would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Like Jerry said, we are very focused on making our relationship and the third entity. I love how you express that. To make really a safe haven for the both of us to really be who we are and who we want to be, and to be able to share our truths with each other, and to receive it as well as we can as partners and help the other person grow into that. And yeah, I think together we've really, really changed a lot over the last 8-9 years, and grew in many ways, and we still are. And it's I think the word growth and honesty is really important for us. Yeah.
Great mirror. You've been a wonderful mirror for me over the years.
Yeah, like Jerry said, sometimes it's not always easy, but relationships just aren't, because we really mirror each other a lot, especially if we allow it to. And really be honest with each other about who we are, and who we want to be. And I believe we are very good with being in the uncomfort, discomfort, we'd say, and the triggers that might come with really owning who we are.
We go deep together.
How have you developed this skill set of being with the unknown, the uncertainty, the ugly, the doing it wrongs? Like, how have you learned to find safety in that, or to be with yourself in that moment?
Do you want to start or share?
You go for it. Yeah, it's a difficult question.
Yeah, but a really good one also. For us, from the get-go, when we decided to really be together and get into a relationship together, we already felt like we really wanted to try to be in an open relationship, mostly from the perspective that, at least for me, that I really wanted to create a space where I could be completely myself and always open about what I longed for, where I wanted to go, and create a really free and safe space to do that in. And with that, every time we encountered something that might have been difficult to share, maybe in a monogamous relationship, or for me in general, just difficult to share myself, we created values for ourselves that was always welcome to share our truth, to share our longings. And having those core values that we could rely upon every time we encountered something in discomfort or triggers really helped us to create a space to allow that to be there. And along the years, more and more, we came into contact with different modalities and different practices that really helped us with that, and only made our communication skills stronger. Yeah. You want to add something?
Very well said.
Yeah.
In addition to that, for myself, I feel like being in relationship with Nicky has really, in that idea that she's a mirror for me, has really helped me love myself more. So I think that's something that I really struggled with. And then getting into relationship with her, I had a mirror of somebody who could uh, reflect back to me aspects of myself that I didn't fully understand. And those pieces that really needed to integrate into my character were able to land because I had that honest and safe container that I could bounce things back. And that's something that I'm really grateful for.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So you said that from the very beginning, open relationship was kind of a concept that you both agreed upon with the desire of wanting to try it out, right? It's like it was from the very beginning as a concept there. Um, let's talk a little bit about what is open relating, because similar to a monogamy, there is not one monogamy or one monogamous relationship or one open relationship. How maybe we can go really a little bit back in time of like how were the baby steps into it, and how did the open relationship kind of evolve, and what is it now, right? And you can tell me what is easier, but I think it's nice to start from where it started and see kind of the developmental steps of where it is now and what means open relating for you.
I could start.
Yeah.
So, without going into too many details, in my history, it turns out that the kind of women that I always liked were women that would be predisposed to liking open relationships for whatever reason. So I often would find women that would say something like, "I'm not sure if I'm into monogamy. I'm not sure if I want to be monogamous." And I would always kind of try to convince them that they were wrong, and I would kind of just try to make it work, and it often wouldn't. And after a relationship where I got cheated on, rather than just demonizing this person, it was a person that I loved and thought was a really good person in so many ways, whatever that means. And I went on a journey kind of intellectually to try to find out, are there other ways of describing how relationships could go? And this led me into the direction of a book called Sex at Dawn. I'm forgetting the author's name right now, but it's a really good book that talks about different anthropological um, studies and research that shows that there's a lot of different types of couples or different types of relating in different areas of the world. And so for me, it was a very intellectually interesting and exciting thing. And I didn't necessarily think I would have a chance to try it out. And then I met another woman who also told me, I'm not sure if I'm into the concept of monogamy. I'm not sure if that fits me. I think my heart might be shaped a different way. And I was like, oh, okay, this time I'm going to give it a good shot. And even though it scares the hell out of me, I'm going to see if I can make this work. And it turns out that it also really fit me in the process. I don't want to talk for too long, but that's how it really started for me. It was quite intellectual, and then meeting Nicky was the catalyst for actually giving it a practical run.
Yeah, and I love how you described that, Marcella, about there's many types of monogamy and many types of different relationships, and we're just talking about open relating now. But what for us is really open relating is creating a value system together that fits you as two people. And as you describe, creating this third entity that wants to become in between and around. And for me, at the beginning, when I met Jerry, we were both traveling, so we were both backpacking, and we met in Myanmar, neutral territory for the both of us. But I came really from a home, the Netherlands, in quite a codependent state in how I was relating to the people around me, the world around me, the relationships I was in. I was very much living on the feedback that I was getting from my external environment and valuing myself from that place. And for me, going to travel was really my super strong independent woman stage of like, I don't need anybody and I can take completely care of myself and do everything I want. And that was also the state that I met Jerry in. And even though in my mind I don't really want to be in a relationship or want to be with a man per se right now, I could feel in my heart that it was really, really right to be with him. And for me, the open relating piece came in to, in the first sense, preserve my freedom, and not necessarily my freedom to be with other people, but more the freedom to really be who I am and completely communicate that honestly. And that far, I didn't experience that in my monogamous relationships, that was really a possibility because of conditioning, that how it was supposed to be. And I just wanted to create something that completely fit me and him and us together. Yeah.
Hmm. So, like those were the early days of really both of you developing your own curiosity, but at the same time, I hear also a sense of self, like really growing as individual and having that kind of personal development really at the center of who you are and what you are currently doing, and then from there opening up to, okay, what is the new thing that can happen. And so how did, well, and then maybe let's look at what is open relating nowadays, and then maybe from there we go back at some of the pitfalls in between or the lessons learned. But how are you describing your relationship today? How are you living an open relationship? Does that mean that you both have multiple partners at the moment right now? Do you both have a Tinder profile together, or like what is open relating really practical for you in 2025?
Yeah. First, I think we're both really happy with the term open relating, but there's a way in which, is this the right moment to go into this? Like,
If you
yeah,
feel like it,
I
yeah.
think that one of the ways that we look at it is that any relationship has agreed upon values. And so the amount of intimacy you can share outside of your partnership is one of the things that we think is really interesting to look at. So um, it could be the case that for some couples, dancing with somebody else or cuddling on the couch might be off limits. And for others, of course, it's totally fine. And for us, I don't know if we have necessarily the idea that we have a different type of relationship or that it's necessarily open, but it's just that that parameter of intimacy for other people is well outside what normal monogamous couples would allow. And so, with that in mind, I think we have a really committed partnership, and that most of the time we spend it like any other kind of monogamous couple would. But there is the option for us to explore if something comes up with another person, if there's an energy that wants to be exchanged, or if we want to meet or develop a relationship. The extent to which you can explore that relationship with someone else is very extended. So practically, that looks like we have lovers that occasionally enter into the picture, where like myself, I think it was over a year ago now. There was about a year where I had a lover with someone for a while, but I don't have a lot of dating going on. Usually, it's one person every once in a while, maybe once or twice, once every 1 or 2 years, somebody will come into the picture for a period of time. And then the occasional smaller, more friendly encounter. And then with all of our relationships, I think that we're quite polysensual, you might say, where being very sensual and intimate with all of our friends is also kind of normal to the extent that they're okay with that. It's something that we enjoy. Um, yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think that's really well said. Yeah, it's well summarized. And also, I think the awareness of that, of how to explain what open relating is to us right now, has also really grown with the years, you know, like just such a long experiment. And really, the awareness and the ability to talk about it so openly is also something that's anchored in the last year or two. So it feels really good to hear you speak about it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what does that look like? Also, what I want to say about it is that one of our values together is that we are not looking outside of our relationship for things that are lacking in our relationships or in ourselves. So
Insofar as we're able to.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
but I mean
practice.
more that it's not actively trying to fill a void, and that whatever we feel in between us or with each other, that we are aware of, we try to work on together and to deepen our relationship in that sense. And the piece for me that is open is when somebody else comes into my life that I really feel like, whoa, this person touches me and my energy wants to flow with this person and I want to explore what is there, that there is the possibility to do that. So I currently have a lover that I'm exploring with, like who he is as a person, and it feels like a deep friendship, and also we are sensual and sexual together. And for me, it's very enjoyable that Jerry also knows him and that they feel good about each other. And it's very enjoyable for me to just be as open about it as I can and just share people that I love with one another and with myself. Yeah.
I really like him. And it kind of makes sense that if she likes me, then somebody else that she's going to like is often going to be somebody that I would also enjoy. So we found that we really enjoy the people that we tend to want to relate with. And I actually find that trying to put effort into being friends with them, and it's kind of disarming of the possible triggers or anxiety around it. Just recognizing that this is just another person. And so
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's a follow-up question anyway, but something that comes up in me is like, yeah, often we like the person that, like the new lover, the new person that comes into our life. But sometimes I like them so much that becomes the problem, that it becomes a trigger of like, oh, this person is so amazing. And she, in Jerry's case, then becomes a new mirror for me in the parts that I either have in the shadow that I don't see or don't want to see within myself, or that I admire so much that I can't really see in myself. And I love to look at it that way, and it helps me a lot to appreciate the person that comes into our relationship and know that I can learn something from them, especially when they trigger me.
I think there is like a sentence that's come to my mind. It's we all walk each other home. And I feel like if I look at a couple that opens to the idea of open relating or bringing other people in, I can take a perspective that is very centered around arousal and, you know, just the fun of it. Or I can really try to see that other human, and see what aspect of me, or in the like, or me as the other partner, what aspect in me, like really gets light shined on, or what is there for me to explore. I feel like there is the opportunity to bringing in more aliveness in a way, right? Like the two of us, we are kind of the safe haven, and somewhat also to function in society. Many things, financial caretaking, or, you know, for health as a family caretaking, happens somewhat in the duality, which is already complex and for many people a challenge, but somewhat more manageable than, you know, working with a poly system and who is in charge for what. It requires a lot more communication and figuring out live streams and all of that. So if I detach myself from that, but really see that it's more than attraction, then, you know, I bring in more aliveness. I can learn how to be with my heart, and the accelerator for growth that you talked about in the beginning, also in this relationship as the glue. Like, we bring in new opportunities for that. Like, to me, it makes, like, I love this idea. I see a lot of challenges come up for many couples that go on this path, but I do feel there's also so much opportunity in the way both of you described how you look at the other person, how you want to relate. I heard it's not, about one night stands per se, and it's not about just the attraction level, but really a heartfelt experience where you want to meet the other person, want to bring them into what the two of you have, and really, grow together. Would you agree?
Yeah, beautifully summarized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have this feeling that for us, there's also this deep commitment that we have, and there's a lot of emphasis on the extent to which we can be very hygienic and make a very secure container between us. Um, then we can have the space to invite other people into that or to go explore outside of the container, which does bring in, like, if we're very stable, then we can bring in that little bit of a trigger to rocks the boat a little bit, but in the way of, like you said, aliveness is a really nice way to put it. It brings in a new energy, and I feel that often when our communication is going really well, it's it just brings in a lot of, yeah, aliveness. It's just the perfect word. And
Yeah.
often the introduction of a new person into the container makes things feel better. And so it's not always in the beginning. It was often a trigger, and it was difficult, and it would bring up a lot. And now, after we've been doing it for a few years, it can often feel very refreshing when Nikki finds a new lover. So, and that's a very interesting thing that I wouldn't have necessarily anticipated in the first couple of years we were doing this.
So, what have you learned along the way? You already give us a taste of it. Wasn't always just peaceful and easy. It was work that both of you put into it. What were some of the lessons learned along the way? Where nowadays how important it is to introduce the new person, or maybe developing a language of how to say certain things or set boundaries. What have you learned along the way, and maybe what were some of the challenges really where, you were asked to grow and develop these skills?
Mm.
I think over the years it's been really finding a balance, especially at the beginning, to find the balance between, for me, pursuing what I want and what I'm longing for, and keeping in my awareness how much Jerry's nervous system can handle in that moment.
Mm.
And really communicating about that as well. We've always had the agreement that if my nervous system is off whack for any reason, can be from work or just stress or insecurities, if it's really too sensitive, then we also slow down in the amount that we might go out and see somebody else. Yet there's also a balance, because there can also be parts within us that come really online and don't want the other person to go out and see somebody else, because we feel really insecure and jealous. And it might be pieces that we can only really look at individually. So there's a balance there between communicating what you need and what your nervous system needs, and also finding within yourself which pieces are for you to sit with, are for us to sit with ourselves. And I think we fine-tuned that more and more, and also in the communication around that. For instance, when I get triggered, and then Jerry would check in with me, like, is this a trigger because you're really out of capacity right now and you need us to, change gears a little bit? Or is this something that is within you that you can sit with and maybe go to your sisters, to your girlfriends to be with, and not something per se for Jerry to hold? So I hope I explained that well, but
Yeah.
just finding that balance in between, like putting on the brake, because sometimes you might feel like I really want to put on the brake, but for us, we made it really clear, why are you putting on the brake and what do you need in the pause, in the break, or can you let go of the brake and find support somewhere else? Yeah.
And for myself, having that kind of emergency break. So from the beginning, we were basically with the idea that we would try to give each other as much freedom as we could handle, but we also had the possibility to make a pause and make it monogamous for a period of time if that's what one of us needed. And for me, that was really essential to feel safe enough to do this. And I did pull the brake a few times. And I don't know if you ever did, but there's probably a few times you should have.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm more inclined to just try to deal with things and suffer through things more myself and not
and
stop
for
it.
me, it was more of a like, don't sabotage the process just because I'm hurting. Because in the beginning, some people, when we explain that we're in an open relationship, think that there's just kind of a natural, we're just both naturally not jealous. And in my case, that is absolutely not the case. I would have kind of a full body convulsions when Nikki would disclose that she was with somebody else in the beginning. And that was a process for me to be with, and because it brought up so many of my insecurities, my sense of self-worth. And what I started to notice for myself, this was a big lesson for me, is that even though we in this container decided that that was okay, when I felt that way, I would try to justify the fact that I didn't feel good by analytically looking at whatever she did and try to find something she did in it that wasn't okay. So this was something that I was bringing into the relationship that was not working in the beginning. Is she would go and sleep with somebody else, I wouldn't feel good, and then I would try to pick out any kind of little detail I could to make it not okay. And I did that a few times in the beginning until I figured out what I was doing. And that's something that I would bring out to anyone who's trying this, who's kind of the analytic persuasion, is to really be aware that that's one of the things you can do. And I'd say the other thing that was a huge lesson for me is don't make your partner, insofar as you're able to, make your partner's truth inexpensive for them to share with you. So I really needed a lot of honesty in the container. That's something we both value. And I really wanted Nikki to be honest with me, but there's also a responsibility to make sure that I'm an easy person to be honest with. So if you're honest with me and I don't like what I'm hearing and I make that a big problem and it's very expensive for you to tell me the truth, I shouldn't be surprised if you find it hard to tell me the truth. So balancing the responsibility for yourself and your partner and managing all of these different things was not just helpful in the relationship, but were skills that I learned that had a lot of impact in the rest of my life too.
Yeah.
I oftentimes keep saying, like, when people ask me, but why would I want to invest in my relationship, or why is there something to learn? And, then I will say something around, well, let's say your intimacy life is better or your health improves, but really the number of benefits from describing, what you went through, it ripples into all areas of life, because this is really the container for, being with your nervous system, expanding your capacity to stay in your heart when the shit hits the fan, becoming aware of how to create a safe space for everybody to relate with you, to speak, to show up authentically, like all the things. It's like, this is the container where, so much of growth can happen, where you are safe enough, loved, welcome. You can try out, you can fail, you can do all the things. And it is such a, I think it's the greatest gift for a human to feel that love with someone and to really have the ability to get to the core of who you are, the wounds, the triggers, all of that. So yeah, like I'm over here already, like sobbing and celebrating all the things you share. It's beautiful story. Yeah, wow, congratulations. And you put in a lot of work, really, like noticing, where am I in the way of the us? Where am I in the way of even meeting myself deeper? Sometimes that's the hardest pill to swallow, really looking at myself.
I love that phrase. Where am I in the
Where am
way?
I in the way?
Yeah.
Beautiful. An intention with where is the us and in the way of the I. Yeah, holding those intention. Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Do the two of you have children, or are you thinking about children?
We don't have children yet. We would love to, in maybe a year or two, something like
Yeah.
that. We
We're
are
setting
still
the stage.
setting the stage. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I would like to know, what is your idea on, well, when I ask, about open relating, I mean, it's easy to just assume that this is now going to be your forever future, but we all don't know how the relationship is going to evolve, right? So, but from today, 25, how do you see your relationship change with children? And more specific, I would like to know, as a couple living their own version of open relating, meaning there is other people in the picture, maybe entering the house, maybe sharing a year-long romantic relationship with another person. How can we take children along? Is that something where you feel like, um, we need to hide this, we can talk about it? What is your inner truth around how to have children around that?
You want to start? Or
Yeah,
me?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I think that it's something that we're asked a lot because when we do disclose our relationship style with people, um, it can be a little bit abrasive to some people. They're like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's interesting," and it often comes afterwards, which is, but you won't do that when you have kids, will you? And and I totally understand where that comes from because I could imagine that if we were to have a child next year and then we wanted to try to start up open relating during a pregnancy or something, that might be an inopportune time to start because I can imagine it does bring a lot of trigger, and it's something that you need to integrate in order for it to be a growth experience. And I think that for us, we've already put in that work in the beginning to where it feels like a really nice, expansive aspect to our life. And I don't see us having children necessarily as being a reason to stop. I think that if when Nikki's in her pregnancy, for example, if she were to say, "I really can't have you sleeping with somebody else. I need you close right now," that would be totally okay, and I would do that, and I think vice versa. So that's kind of how we're thinking about it. But I also don't think that children much mind um, the relationships that their parents have. So for us, it would be kind of on the continuum of friendship, and so that we happen to be sleeping with one of these friends that from the child's perspective, I
Mhm.
don't think it would necessarily be um, an issue because I don't know if we would necessarily share that element. And so much of how our day to day life is like any other couple. Um, so I don't see it as being a line in the sand that it would be a problem.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Also, but like Jerry says, I think what children encounter and what they grow up with is their normal, right? So I see it also more in a community perspective, like living with multiple people, or like something that we might want to do, living in a group space more and living with multiple people and having our children grow up there also with other children. I see it in that perspective also, that it's just another person that is there to love and care for the child. And yeah, I don't really see how the child would necessarily mind that. The only thing I can think of is, and I think where this question also comes from often, is that it's like an irregular situation that the child grows up in. So, in comparison to their classmates or things like that, they might
Mm,
have a different structure in their home.
mm,
And I think we used to also talk about this, like having two fathers or having two mothers. That is that okay for the child? And I think as long as they have loving people around them, the more the better, in my opinion.
mm,
And that's also how we are here with our friends, also in this home. They have three children, and there's always people around that love them so much. And that's really what it's about. That is trusting, loving relationships. And in general, like Jerry said, we are already quite physical with our friends in the amount of intimacy that we share in hugging and caring for each other. And I think that can only be a really beautiful imprint for children.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, or it's centered a lot around normalizing it. And like, from my point of view, there is an art to it, which is, are the parents able to talk about it? Like, how do you find words that normalize this to the children or to the child, so that the child also finds words how to express, their life, their normal life, in a way that they feel safe and loved and clear and stable. So sometimes it's really around how to talk to the children and give them words so that they can express theirs, or be there with them. And then there's this part around, like, the two of you have over 8 years of experience, and I can hear how good your vocabulary and your emotional awareness is. And in that regard, if you can hang with your nervous system and make it safe for the child, right? So that the child doesn't have to feel or work through your emotions. But actually, you know what yours is, and children are attached to our nervous system, or especially to the moms, for a very long time, right? Like, they feel what they feel. And in that regard, like, if I can create safety around that, a big part of the job is already done. And then, sometimes, maybe an anecdote, but I had a client who was a widower, and he in our welcome session, he shared how awkward he feels going to dating events, because apparently people don't know how to be around a widower. It's like everybody is divorced. That's normal. Everybody, can relate on that level, but not with a widower. That's something, so to say, the abnormal. And, sometimes to become aware around the fact that divorce has become collectively so normal, where the hurt and the lack of communication or emotional awareness to the child is probably the normal. Like, many children carry that trauma along, and there is hardly any awareness of how to hold space for that, or how to be with them. But we are talking around a field of more love, as you were saying. Like, it's almost like we are creating a village for the child, where hopefully, also the partners have a role in that child's life, and there's more love created. So how can we make this safe? How can we make this something normal? Like, I find that very aspirational.
Me too. And I also think, just put a flag there, that we haven't gotten to that part yet, and I'm really interested to see how it goes. And I really liked what you mentioned. You brought me something new with what you just mentioned. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. If a couple wants to go on this path, do you have like a checklist of things to read, to learn, to do? I feel like that's a very basic question, and there's so many online articles about, here are the 5 things to do when you start an open relationship. But really, from your experience, like, how do we ease into that, especially if we are not on the same page, if one person wants it more than the other? What would you recommend to this couple, of how to create maybe safe experiments with this, or ease into that?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think that one thing that I would like to say is that we often, with many aspects of life, we recognize that there's a certain level of practice and skill that comes into doing various things. But with relationships, people often feel like you have to do it based on intuition, that you have to, that researching relationships and going to relationship seminars, or to get therapy, or having relational practices, or having dates in the calendar where you and your partner are going to have an intimacy night or something. I think we found that kind of thing very, very important. And also structured practice around how to communicate and structured time where we as a couple check in about our relational values every every year or two, where we say, okay, these were our relational values up until this point, and what do we think about that now? And really talking about our relationship, the us, the synergy, um, as something that we want to develop and tweak and reflect on. So really a relationship practice is something that I think is kind of necessary for any relationship from my perspective. But in particular, if you want to do a relationship on hard mode, which a friend of mine said open relating can be, I think that's not far from the truth. And if you want to go that direction, I think you need to take that into account, that any resources you can get, I would encourage somebody to go for them. Was there a second part to your question, the practices and
The different paces. One person wants it, the other person doesn't.
Yeah.
that is really a tricky one, and I don't know if I'm qualified to answer it. I think I was probably more hesitant in the beginning than you were, and for me, that emergency break was really necessary for me to feel safe. And I don't think that you'll have. I think forcing it when both people don't feel secure in the container, or one person doesn't feel secure in the container, I think it's going to be really hard. So I'm not exactly sure on that exact element how to proceed. Um, but what's interesting, so little thing, is that I think over the years, it's actually switched. In that, in the beginning, it was very challenging for me, and I was always amazed by how easy it seemed to me to be for Nikki. It seemed that she took it with such grace, and she was so chill about the whole process. And then over the years, I really adapted, and I was like, oh, I really like this. There's more aliveness. I like what this is bringing me. And the triggers just faded into the background, and now it's just very relaxed. And I think that Nikki, her time to experience that happened a bit later, so it almost felt like we switched in that dynamic at some point. So that's also an interesting thing to be aware of, is that the person who's hesitant in the beginning might end up finding their flow, and then it might be the other person's turn to struggle for a bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in general, whatever type of relationship you have, what helped me a lot is really focusing on what are our values as a couple, just so you have already a clear perception of what you need out of a relationship as individuals. So if a value is freedom, for instance, that already starts the conversation about what does that mean for you and how can we meet each other in that. And I think there's a phone going. Let me just see.
The microphone takes it out. I don't hear it.
Yeah, okay, you don't hear it.
Oh,
Perfect.
good. It's not our phone.
No.
I don't know.
But yeah, and just approaching it with as much compassion, somebody else's truth and what they want as you can. And like Jerry said, having certain breaks and pauses into it to really inquire with one another where you are at, and not pushing each other's nervous systems outside of capacity. So really taking it slow at the beginning. Because if you're, for instance, not physically intimate at all, not even hugging with other people outside of your relationship, or dancing with other people outside of your relationship, maybe just start with that and take it really step by step, and keep inquiring with each other how you feel. And yeah, like Jerry said, bring in practices of really sitting down in front of one another and looking each other in the eyes and holding space for one another. And with holding space, I mean really listening to what the person has to say without immediately having to answer, without immediately having to fix or having to bring your judgment in, and really learning what it means to hold space for your partner. And that's great for your partner, but also for yourself, to take time to be less reactive in a situation, and where you can take in things slower and with more compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something that comes up as you say this is I love this concept of hormesis. So there's a stress on the system that has an adaptive response. The obvious example is like you pump the bicep at the gym and you kind of tear the muscle fibers and it grows back stronger than it was, so long as you have sufficient rest and nutrients and everything else. And I think for us in this relationship, it's been the same, which is that whenever there's a little bit of a stress on the container, we take the space to rest and to integrate and to land it. And for that, you need a lot of presence with each other, a lot of communication. And then from that, it felt like it got stronger and stronger. But in the moments where we didn't take that time or things went too fast for one nervous system or the other, that's when it started to feel a bit wobbly. So I would also just say um, one definition of trauma is when something happens too fast, too soon, too much, too fast, too soon. So if you're not sure, just slow down. And I really like what you said. If you're a couple that's not even dancing with other people,
Yeah.
don't skip straight to open relating. Maybe find some intermediary steps and see how that feels.
Yeah.
It feels like good advice.
Yeah, I like the athlete's mindset on such things, and in a way, also a relationship is something that grows over time, similar to well, not similar to muscles, but sometimes it helps to bring a little bit of abstract visualization in there, right? And it's like if we have the choice between there's two people and we meet each other, think this is the perfect match, and now we are here in our safe bubble, not exploring life anymore, then there's also, little room to grow. But in a way, like by having these experiences that you went through, it's also a way of growing trust. It's not like you didn't trust each other in the beginning, but in each of these experiences, you build a muscle around, am I safe here? Does my partner show up? Can I say, pull the brake, and is my partner there? It's every time, like in this basket that's called labeled trust, a coin goes in there, and once this glass is full in our relationship that grew over time, then we know we can take on more challenges, and we feel super strong with one another. Whereas the couple that never fought, that never went through challenging times together, they might feel like, oh my gosh, we are the best because we never fight, but actually they also don't have that experience. And that's sometimes something I try to say around normalizing arguments, but also really putting in the work in how to have this, how to be with the triggers, with the regulation, and with the communication aspect. You mentioned how much, yeah,
Very well said. I really love that. Yeah. Growing trust over time.
yeah. You mentioned how much time you also invested into communicating, and I have oftentimes couples who really lead a busy lifestyle with kids, jobs, multiple businesses, sometimes workout routine, this and that. And when they ask me about open relating, I would say, look, like if it's already difficult to find time for the two of you, bringing in a third being or someone else into the relationship, it's going to be not just double the amount of time, it's going to add a lot more need for communicating and being with yourself. What would you say? How much time do you need? Like, how much time do you invest into that inner work and the relationship work um, to make sure that everybody is safe and sound? Because, yeah, in the end, it's a question: can everybody have an open relationship? Can you do that if you have a 9 to 5 job and multiple children, and maybe this and that and things going on? I feel like a realistic number might be helpful to some of, like, how do we have capacity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also really personal, right? I find it hard to say how much time really, because it also really depends how much self knowledge and how much you can feel yourself and your nervous system already, how much has happened in your past that has conditioned you or really hurt you in relationship, and how difficult it is for you to trust. I think there's so many aspects that come with this. Yet I also believe, because we are sometimes also really busy, that with very little check-ins, so taking, like we take, for instance, 7 minutes of heaven is one exercise that's 7 minutes long. you can ask from your partner something you want to receive from them. And then you just set a timer and receive for 7 minutes, and then you swap around. So that's half an hour in total. But the amount of intimacy and dropped inness you can create in that is really, really big for 7 minutes. And I think you can do the same with communicating and sitting down to share your truth or to share something difficult, to set a timer in which you can do that. And in your own time also, create space, more space within yourself to be able to hold these things. So I don't know, do you have a time perspective?
No, I don't. But I love what you brought in, and I think that kind of what you're also getting at is like, if it's deep presence, it's so much more potent than just the kind of the casual interactions. So I think if someone didn't have a lot of time and they wanted to go for it, I would say these scheduled time deep shares is something that would be something I would advise for. When we were doing this, we were backpacking all over the place in various countries, and we were together all the time. And so we had a lot of time. And so that's a luxury that we got. And so integrating it into a more normal lifestyle is something that we didn't have experience with. But we're interested in learning from other people how they do it. But yeah, I'm not sure an exact time.
And I think, again, it's pacing yourself with what you've got, right?
Mm.
So if you're very, very busy, take it even slower in the steps that you make. And maybe just go out one time by yourself and go dancing and see how that feels. Even just to be doing something separate from your partner and your family life can already give a lot of perspective. And at least for me, it does, to create some time for myself and go from there. And I just had a few ideas pop up also around how to communicate with each other and how to practice with each other when you're really busy. I think it's really beautiful also to listen to books around this topic, for instance. So you could do that in a car and listen to audio and then share it with each other. Hey, I listened into this in this book and it really resonated with me.
Listening together too.
Listen it together so you can talk about it before you bring anything into action. Just to really open that space in your mind and in your heart of what the possibilities are. And same with, there's really beautiful Instagram stories or posts that are inspiring about relating in general, but also open relating that you could share with each other. So you can have little sneak peeks in what resonates for one another, and you can feel into if you agree or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Goes back to, how many people actually invest and learn into their relationship skills and read a book or go to seminars and find out about things. So sharing podcasts, or I have a movie list where I say this is my recommended movies to watch as a couple to explore, relating without reading a book, but really, watch this movie together. Here are 5 questions to explore afterwards to learn more about each other's relationship style, so to say.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I have one more thing that popped up, which is that Nikki and I have also gone to, I don't know how to describe it, like Tantra temple kind of spaces where it's kind of an open sex positive space where there's a lot of people and you can have whatever boundaries you want going into this. But there is some kind of intimate contact happening between couples that are there and between various people. And there's kind of intimacy and tantric practices taking place. And we found going into these spaces with a tight series of agreements between each other, just being in the space together, not even interacting with other people, but just as a couple, was a really nice step for us. We found that to be really, really useful. And then from there, when you start to open up those boundaries on subsequent occasions, it's actually really beautiful to see your partner with somebody else, at least for me, because I always had this idea that it was like this scary thing that I was thinking about they were doing, and I was kind of imagining it. And my imagination was much more challenging for me to be with than the reality. When I was actually there and present for Nikki being intimate with other people, I actually really enjoyed it and found it to be a really beautiful experience. So that's also something just food for thought, something to consider. That for me, my imagination was much worse than being present to the reality. It's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I really want to add to this, if you look into going to retreats or group spaces like this, to really feel into if you're pacing yourself. And if it's like, choose a really small one, maybe something that already, if you see how it's advertised, you feel like, oh yeah, I think I could fit in there. And just really take your time, maybe even via, just to ask around what felt good for people that you know, to land in a space that feels good, because some of these spaces can be just a little bit too much also, and then maybe you'll need to do a bit more work to settle down from that again. So I would just say also pace yourself with that. And I just had one other thing that came up. Oh yeah, something that we didn't have in the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, is really other people around us to talk about this topic that are doing the same thing. Maybe in different forms, because everyone is unique, but I find it so wonderful to have friends now that do a similar thing or are interested in it, and just to discuss it. And it's on the theme of normalizing it, right? So
Yes.
that's also a piece of advice. Find some people that you can talk about it.
And good for you
Yes.
for making that community. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful. We would
Yeah.
have loved that early on in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It is this part of where is your support group? And that is something for all couples or for everybody. Where is a space where you can talk about relationships and just work things through or normalize them, find words, express yourself, do that. And that can be the partner, but it shouldn't always be the partner. And also for the relationship as an entity, where can we as a couple, go to a space where we are welcome to share our story and where others are supportive of what we are going through. It's this going back to tribal and community and the importance of that. Oh, thank you for all the advice. I feel like you really put thought into the interview and what you would like to share and convey. And that was some really good practical tips, what to do, how to ease into this. And maybe just last but not least, a question around. So, have you had couples that fell apart in this experiment? And maybe what recommendation do you have for couples that end their relationship as a consequence of having, well, it's never the consequence that it was an open relationship, but something might have happened there and they didn't work through their own triggers, or a realization that was unforeseen. Because as much as you think you are aware of what you desire and bring, Nicky, you mentioned that in the beginning, right? Do I feel like I'm fulfilling a lack, or do I have everything in my relationship? But there is a part where I don't know, oh, I was actually craving this, that could happen. So do you have advice for that couple that is going through, well, this led us closer to ending it? And it's a tough one because there's so many ways of how it can unfold, but I'm just checking if there's some words from your side, based on experience, maybe from others, on how to handle that.
And the first thing that comes up in me is also, it's also okay if it's almost that you almost ended your relationship because you opened it, or that it ended because you opened it. And it comes up in me because it is in the end an experiment of living mostly as your true self. At least for me, it was. And if that's part of it and it didn't work with this specific partner, then maybe that's also okay. That's the first part that comes up in me. But the rest is mostly actually what we already talked about. Like, did you pace yourself enough? Did you go too fast? Did you really listen to your own nervous system and your partner's nervous system? And or maybe it was just an exploration that you both wanted to encounter, and now you realize actually monogamy is more for us, and we're also happy with that. I think it's also talking about it in a sense of like, I hear a lot of couples say this. We tried open relating, but it was a disaster, or open relating almost broke our relationship and things like that. It's also, maybe we can do a reframing of like, hey, we tried to research this and we noticed that it was outside of the capacity we had in this moment. So now we're going back to ourselves and trying monogamy again. And we were very brave that we tried. Or just to soften the language around it a little bit also feels important for me. Yeah.
Love that.
Well said. I'm not sure if I have a whole lot to add on that. I think, I would say that when it seems to work out for a couple, there are a few things that I see as a pattern for the people that it tends to work out for. And generally, it's that when people aren't interested necessarily in just having, for example, more sex, because some people think that it's going to be just a big boost. They're going to get something and they're not going to have the challenging aspects of it. So they're not necessarily prepared for how challenging it can be. And people who are kind of going into it for the challenge, in a sense, that really see it as a growth opportunity, they seem to get more out of it, in my perception, from the people I've met. And I would also say that I find something that we do that I really enjoy is when we find something that's nourishing to us from another person, is we try to bring that back into our relationship. In that, if I'm not being, for example, met by a particular thing with Nikki, do I immediately go and try to seek that from somebody else? Do I go and look for that quality in somebody else? Maybe that happens. Maybe I'm sparked by something in someone else, but then I try to bring that energy back into my relationship with Nikki. That way, the open relating isn't an escapism from whatever problems we might be having. So that's something that I also think is a successful strategy, and something I see in people who report to me that they're having a great time with open relating. But I guess that's all I have to say on it.
Yeah, to summarize that, I feel like open relating is not necessarily a solution to fix a relationship that's not already working, already not working. Yeah,
that might be.
at least, maybe for some people that works, but I think it can only make it more challenging. So to make sure that your container is already really good and safe.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Wonderful. We are coming to the end of our conversation. It was such a rich conversation. I loved, having the opportunity to really, be in your life for a moment and see all the embodied wisdom really around that, and how you manage to find a way that really leads you always back to the heart. In every second that you shared something, it was always felt always very heart connected. Coming to the end also means I would like to offer you the opportunity to share a little bit of what you are building in this world, and how people can connect with you if they want to know more, or what is it that you offer. So let this be a moment where the stage is yours. What are you building, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I think we both have a background of facilitating different kinds of group spaces. So I'm an instructor for training breathwork coaches. I'm a breath coach. I work with psilocybin and men's work. And we both really enjoy these kinds of transformational retreat spaces. And what I'm really excited about is that Nikki and I are trying to funnel our very broad and general mindset into relationships more and more. And so we're trying to make an offering around that going forward. It's still in the beginning phases, but it feels really exciting. And I think that this podcast is kind of exciting and motivating on that. We haven't had a lot of opportunities to speak about it in this form. So I was a little bit nervous in this conversation, but as the conversation went on, I'm like, oh yeah, I really like this. It's really enjoyable. And we're really excited. I'm excited to work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part.
Yeah.
Create something with you.
Yes, but Jerry facilitates men's spaces and I facilitate women's spaces. And last year we started doing a few workshops for couples and more into how to communicate difficult truths and things like that. And it was super fun to do. And we gave a retreat last year for couples about conscious relating. And it just felt so aligned to work together and share our knowledge in that way. And it's not, we never really bring in the open relating piece, only the wisdom that comes from our experience in that. And if somebody wants to address the open relating, we can talk about that, but it's not necessarily the focus that we have. It's mostly what you also shared, Marcella, like how to become most alive in your relationship and build a super safe place and container where you can be yourself and can practice things with your partner that then consequently ripple out towards your children, your friends, your community, to society at large, and how we can relate differently with one another. So, from that perspective, we are starting a business and wanting to share retreats, but also online spaces and coaching sessions for couples to dive deeper into their relationship. Yeah. And we can share the website that we are building and the Instagrams and stuff later on, so you can place it under
Yes,
the recording. That would be amazing.
we'll
Yeah.
do that. We'll do that. Wonderful. Is there anything where you feel like if the conversation stopped now, I would miss out on having shared that? Is there anything you would still like to share before we come to an end? Maybe there was a wisdom, but we didn't quite touch upon that.
For me, it's interesting talking about open relating. It often is about the struggles and how it's difficult. But I also
Oh,
just
yeah.
want to bring in how much joy and aliveness it has brought to me. And yeah, to be able to be so generous with Jerry and to see him receive what he wants to receive, and also to really receive myself from people that are around me. And yeah, just expand like that. It's really, really wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad you bring in that point. Yeah, because it can be really fruitful and productive to kind of focus on the areas where it might be a struggle, but it's an absolute pleasure, and it's so wonderful. And for me, it's been a huge motivator of self-esteem. For one thing, I feel really good about myself that I'm the kind of man that can give you that aliveness and freedom,
Mm.
which I think is something that you've always really longed for. And the fact that I was able to develop into the man that can so effortlessly give that to you feels really good, and makes me feel good about myself. And there's one little thing that I have as well, which is that in the beginning, something I would like to say about Nicky is that you're exquisitely attuned to the deepest potential of people around you, and you're very good at evoking that in other
Aw.
people. I think this is my favorite quality in you, and I almost missed my opportunity. So thank you for
Thank you,
giving
honey.
giving the prompt.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Marcella.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you too for this wonderful conversation.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Thank you.